Record on this computer. Boom. Okay, we're in this thing. We live. We live.
Word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just clearing everything. Talk to me.
All right. Well, I thought because today is, I don't know if we have like a saying for what today is in the culture. Is Good Friday, is Resurrection Sunday. Saturday doesn't really have like a title, and so I thought, oh, it would be incredible to be able to kind of highlight the value and the importance of this day, mainly because I heard you speak at Legacy Conference 2000 and, was it last year? Was it 19 or 18?
That was 19, I can't remember.
One of them. You
19. It was 19.
19?
Yeah.
Okay. So you led a workshop at Legacy Conference, and the workshop was centered on suffering. But during that particular workshop, you coined this term called the Gospel of Saturday. And so I was just like, what he talking about? Where are we going with this? And it was just so life-changing that even today, woke up in my time with the Lord in prayer, I was like, man, like I need to hear Timotheus's Gospel of Saturday thoughts right now, especially in light of the pandemic and in light of your story in Judah and all that good stuff. So yeah, would you give the people some context just for your story, your son's story, and then talk to us about this whole Gospel of Saturday thing? Why is today important in light of Good Friday and Resurrection Sunday? What are some things that we can really pull from today?
Great questions. All great questions. Thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm.
In light of our story, it dates back to even when I was a child growing up in my dad's home, who's a pastor. I was not taught that if you love God and do what's right, things can't go wrong, but that was essentially what I caught. The idea was, hey, Psalm 91, Psalm 84:11, he won't hold anything good for not right. Psalm 91 is he'll give his angel charge over you so that you won't dash your foot against a stone. No plague will come near your dwelling. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High will abide under the shadow of the Almighty. And so all of these texts were communicated in a way that made me think if you love God and you do what's right, you won't get hurt. At least he won't hurt you. But in our journey, even though I knew that was not true, I still had it in the back of my head. And so on June 1st, 2017, our fourth child and my second son, Judah, went to Children's Hospital with what they still don't know is the case. He started having seizures. In context of the story, I actually was going to go preach somewhere that night, and the message was from Romans 1, talking about doing God's will no matter what. So I went to preach that night while my wife took Judah to the ER, and he had 2 grand mal seizures while he was there in the ER, and she thought he was going to die. So I finished doing the ministry event, which was an hour from where he was in the hospital. So I drove back, and we rushed. He got life flighted to Children's Hospital. I watched my son almost die 3 or 4 times within a matter of 28 hours, 30 hours, something like that. And so there in the hospital, we were there for a total of 5 months, but in the hospital for about 95 days or so. They put Judah in a pharmacological coma. He was in a coma for 88 days. July 17th, they told us he was brain dead. Not brain dead, sorry, that he had experienced walnut brain and that would be permanent brain damage. I asked what that would mean for him. They had no clue what that meant for him. And so I wrestled and struggled and fought and sought the scriptures in order to be as biblically based as I could, but also just needed hope for myself, for my son, for my family. And what the Lord did is meet me there in that hospital room at Children's Hospital day in and day out. And he really laid out for me what the scriptures really mean in regard to Psalm 91 and John 14:14. If you ask anything in my name, I'll do it. Matthew 21:22, I think is what it is. Mark 9:23, like all of these passages that talk about him doing for us. We fasted, we prayed, we brought in the elders, we anointed him with oil. I mean, we did everything that the Bible says, and still he was sick. And so I was just like, man, what I'm reading in the text, James chapter 5, like all of these is just different than what I'm experiencing. Lord, what's going on? And so that's when he really used the book of Isaiah at that time to just rock my world and to say, hey, you're missing the gospel of Saturday. And so I was just like, what does that mean? Like, what is that? And he didn't call it that. What ended up happening was I was talking to Stilo one day, Stephen Lopez, and Stilo was telling me he had heard about that idea from somebody else. And I can't remember the dude's name that he heard it from. And so in that time, I was like, yo, like that's it. And God was already teaching me what that concept meant, but I didn't have a name for the concept. And so that name became the Gospel of Saturday. And here's the basic gist of what the Gospel of Saturday is. Gospel means good news. But Saturday is, to me, from our viewpoint, don't get me wrong, I know that Good Friday, the cross of Good Friday is awesome, amazing, and there's a goodness to it. Don't get me wrong, I know the glory of Sunday is incredibly significant. Without Sunday, without resurrection, we have no salvation. But to me, the most significant piece of the good news, in my opinion, assuming resurrection, is Saturday for us, not for him, but for us. If somebody says, well, why? Well, because the Bible says the just will live by faith. So even if Jesus gets up, which he does, if there's no faith in him, that don't matter. Like, if you're a non-believer, it doesn't matter that Jesus rose to you. And why are you a non-believer? Well, perhaps because you're living in Saturday. Perhaps you are on the fringe of Christianity, or perhaps you have been walking with God and are a disciple, like Peter, James, John, Andrew, all of them were. But now all of a sudden, on Friday, one of your homeboys that you have spent 3 years of your life with, that you didn't really think was like rolling with y'all anyway, you kind of knew something wrong. But now he betrays the one that you've been following. So not only do you have an interpersonal, I didn't even talk about this in the Facebook post this morning, but this gives me more time. Not only do you have this interpersonal dissonance where now your homeboy has betrayed your friend and the person that you have put your stock and weight in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but now you done watched him get brutally beaten, not say a word. He's crucified. He's hung up on a cross, and he dies. So, there are many who would ask the question, hey, didn't they hear what he had to say? Didn't they? The text says that he told them he would be delivered to the chief priests and scribes, that he would suffer many things, and then ultimately he would die, but he would rise again. He told them that. Why didn't they believe it? Think about Peter. Peter walked up to him, pulled him aside, and said, hey, let this not be so. What that tells you is Peter likely didn't want his friend to die, just like any of us would not want our friend to die. And so hearing that message, seeing the miracles, that's the thing. I think we forget, dude, they walked with Jesus. They watched him raise the dead. You ain't thinking when he says, hey, I'm a suffer these things and die. It's like, man, I just watched you be Superman over there. Like, I watched these two demonic people that nobody could control, who were naked, living in a tomb. I watched you subdue them. I watched demons be afraid of you. Mm-hmm. I watched you go into a house where a man's daughter was dead, where they laughed at you when you said she was asleep, and I watched you raise her up. I watched you walk to Lazarus's tomb 4 days later, and I was there when you said, Lazarus, come out of the tomb, and he came out with his grave clothes on. I watched you turn water into wine. I watched you on the Mount of Transfiguration, if you Peter, James, and John. I'm not thinking you really did. I mean, when I see all of this happening on Saturday, as I said in the post this morning, now my faith is being boiled in the hot water of confusion. Even in Acts chapter 1, when Jesus is risen what do the disciples ask? They ask, so will you establish your kingdom now? Or when are you going to establish your kingdom? They still have in mind, you're the king. They knew the Old Testament scriptures. They're looking for a king. They're looking for somebody to conquer the Romans. That's what they're looking for. Now, all of a sudden, he's dead. I see they're wrestling. I see, and again, the text doesn't tell us what happens for them on Saturday, but we can glean some of what happens on Saturday by what we see on Sunday and what we see days following. Even when Jesus is risen and they know he's risen, Peter says, hey, I'm going fishing. It's like, Peter, what are you doing? Like, Jesus is alive again. And the stages of grief tell me that Saturday was likely, I'm not saying it is the case, I'm saying likely Saturday was filled with disappointment. It was filled with resignation, bargaining. Sure. It was filled with despair. It was filled with confusion, some doubt, some like, yo, like, did we just get carried for 3 years? Did he tell us the truth? But no, man, I saw it with my own eyes. Like, no, I saw him do these things. I saw him raise multiple people from the dead. Mm. How did he just let them take him like that? Mm. I watched him in the garden. Yo, in the garden, he just said, I am. And they fell. I watched it. I watched him put on Malchus's ear. But he just let them take him. And then they brutally beat him. They hung him on the cross and he died. He didn't say a word. He didn't do anything. Is this the way this is supposed to look? My expectations are dashed. My hopes, my dreams, my future, my everything over the last 3 years, James and John could have taken over Sons of Zebedee Fishing Company, whatever it would have been called, Zebedee Family Fishing Company, whatever. Peter and James, Peter and Andrew, same thing. You know, they could have taken over, they were running the family business at some level. Matthew, tax collector, like he could have stayed there. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden it's like, yo, Judas was a traitor? That's the other thing. I don't think people recognize. Saturday, man, all of the funk hits the fan. Judas was a traitor? Now, how do we not even know that? We knew something was wrong, but my man just betrayed Jesus. What's crazy to me is Peter cuts off Malchus's ear. And it just makes me wonder if he was trying to cut off his head and missed, or if he was actually going after Judas and Malchus jumped in the way. I don't know, but it's like in one fell swoop, you trying to process Jesus being dead, Judas being a traitor, and everything you've heard for the last 3 years. You're trying to process in Saturday, but he said he was going to rise. But every other time somebody rose, like even in the Old Testament, Elisha, anytime somebody rose, there was somebody to raise him up. Who's going to raise him? I mean, he God. Like, one, he God. How did he die? Like, how does that work? I know he's a human being too, but like he's God and he said he was God. How does he die? And then, so who's going to get him up? Who's going to call him from the grave? I can see all of that wrestling. And so when I look at my own life, when Judah got sick, Kendra said she heard God say that he's already healed. And so we haven't seen that yet. I believe with all my heart that God said, hey, in 3 years, I'm going to do something. And it'll be 3 years, June 1st, 2020. And here I am still, literally just saw him in his wheelchair. No, I didn't. I'm sorry. Here I am seeing him in his wheelchair, still not walking, still not talking, virtually immobile, still has a trach in. And I'm looking and I'm going, I know what you said, but it just doesn't look like it. I look at the scriptures and I keep hearing in the last days, these things will happen. And I'm looking around and I'm going, this is certainly the last days, but man, this is the longest last days ever. Is it for real? Like, is he really coming? It makes me think of just as the days of Noah, where Noah is telling folk it's going to rain and he's building this boat. And, we don't know how long it took Noah, but it looks like it could have taken like a lot of years in order for that to come. And we might know, I don't remember, but for some strange reason, the number 120 is stuck in my head. I have to go back and look, but it's a lot of years. And I can see people going, is it really going to happen? He's been talking about this for a long time. I mean, he keeps talking about it, keeps talking about it. And just like we keep for 2,000 years plus, we've talked about the return of Jesus. It ain't happened yet. We're in Saturday. And that is a global pandemic ravaging people's lives. Is this the way it's supposed to look? Is he really coming back? Did we get carried? Is this book really true, or is it made up stuff? Like, we wrestle with these troubling times. The gospel of Saturday, the good news of Saturday. The good news of Saturday is those who are in the house of mourning it's better to be in the house of mourning, Ecclesiastes says, than in the house of feasting. It is more blessed on the day of one's death than one's birth. Those are the texts that we don't like to read. And when we think about the gospel of Saturday, the good news of Saturday is that's where the just learn to live by the conviction of truth that changes the way somebody processes life. The gospel of Saturday is, I'm going to choose to believe that this is true. I don't see it. It doesn't make sense. I can't confirm it. I'm going to hold on to it anyway. Now, without faith, is it impossible to please God? For those who come to him must first believe that he exists, and he rewards those who earnestly seek him. And Saturday, there's a different type of seeking than there even was on Friday, and that there was on Sunday. Sunday, now your joy is complete. Your joy is full. You see him. You know, hey, we weren't crazy. But in the meantime, on Saturday, you probably spend all day long going, am I nuts? I can't imagine. Now, granted, they were hiding anyway, but I can't imagine they weren't looking at each other going, yo, man, were we tripping? Did we really hear what he said? Like, did we miss something?
Sure. I don't think in the 2020 Christianity that we have those conversations as much. There's so much assurance, right? And in an effort to affirm assurance, you get what I mean? Like, people are constantly trying to be assured, like, of their faith, and the tension that exists in this picture that you're painting about what happened on Saturday, I think is the Christian walk, right? And if we think about Good Friday, this unspoken of Saturday, and then Resurrection Sunday, I think that is the cycle of faith for the Christian. You know what I mean? To see hardship happen, things happen, suffering happen. That's a part of the Christian walk. We don't like to talk about that. Then there's the uncertainty, of Christianity that makes what we stand upon faith in and of itself, right? I mean, that's the whole premise of what we believe is anchored, like the anchor is the anchor on Saturday. You know what I mean? Keeps you from drifting, right?
Correct.
And then Sunday, the sense of like fulfillment of it all. You know what I mean? And that happens day in and day out, sometimes all in the same day for the Christian, every single day, it seems. But I think when we have a narrative and a faith from up front, or being taught or speaking the loudest, that majority of our faith is built upon Sunday, like Sunday, like just the resurrection, because we know without the resurrection, we don't have anything, right? That's why Paul was correcting folks, what I'm saying? He was like, hey, y'all need to be preaching that he resurrected, because if he didn't resurrect, then all the stuff that you're teaching is, pointless. So we know that the resurrection is essential. And in addition to that, what makes the resurrection is that he died. You get what I mean? Like, if he doesn't die, there's no resurrection. If there's no resurrection, then there's no faith, right? There's no faith. There's no hope. And so I think we focus on the hope part, which we have to, right? That has to be our joy, right? Set before us, so that we'll endure the hardship. Like, we know that is coming. At the same time, our humanity, I think, needs to be reminded that there was death and uncertainty. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Death and uncertainty does not negate what happens on Sunday. To me, it all the more, affirms and brings great anticipation for Sunday.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But to your point, the non-believer might be stuck on Saturday, or is stuck on Friday. You know what I mean? Like, either putting them on the cross, you know what I'm saying? Like, or kind of just watching from like, what the heck is happening. Like I don't really know how to reconcile what is going on in my life with faith and all that good stuff. So I don't know. I think the gospel of Saturday is absolutely necessary so that Christians don't drift. And I think amidst the pandemic, a lot of Christians a lot of people who said that they were people of faith, right, going through this hard thing, cannot reconcile how God would allow something like this to happen, how God would just start taking people's family members left and right. They cannot figure out, like, this doesn't make any sense. Like,
Correct.
to me, what they told me at church is not what I'm feeling right now. What they
Correct.
told me at church is not what I'm experiencing right now. My season is not here. I'm not feeling like an overcomer. I don't think I can do all things through Christ. Like, all of the stuff, right? Like, his plans for me that are good and not to hurt or harm me, but to prosper me and bring me a hope in the future. Like, all of these verses, right, that people have built their faith on, aren't anchoring people, because I don't think they're looking at the entire picture. You get what I mean? And if you don't see the entire picture, if you don't see the gospel of Saturday, so to speak, if you don't see the uncertainty, if you don't see the humanity, you know what I'm saying? Like, then, yeah, when something bad happens, you're like, yeah, nah,
You got it.
I'm not here for this, you know? And
Got
so to your point, yeah, I think this day, it to me is the good stuff, assuming the resurrection is happening. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like if
Absolutely.
you not in place of the resurrection, you know what I'm saying? But like knowing that the resurrection happened, Saturday is, to me, like paramount.
Paramount.
Absolutely.
So what you said is huge. We are in so I had this conversation yesterday with Big Show, Eric Ryan, and we were talking about systematic theology, but what I was communicating to him was, we have a great emphasis on biblical doctrine, systematic theology, understanding everything from a big heady perspective. Because, like Brene Brown says, there are a lot of uncertainties and mysteries, so we want to make everything certain, and we want to put God and theology and scripture in a box. And that makes it easier to live, easier to believe, easier to wrestle with, because there's no wrestling. I know what this means, and when I don't know what it means, I'm just going to say, that's a mystery, right? To me, the most significant piece of Passover for us, resurrection, is that God meets man at every level. So the cross, he meets man's sin. But on Friday, but Saturday, he meets man's doubt, disbelief, disappointment. He meets where man doesn't have any answers for what he has experienced. And all he can do is hope. That's all he got. He ain't seen it. I mean, he actually saw the complete opposite of what he thought would be the case. He has yet to see the fulfillment. And right there, and then a decision has to be made. Let me bring it to 2020. Like you said, I know what all these texts say. Let me take it back to 2017. I know what all these texts say, but I'm sitting here in a hospital watching my son suffer. What am I missing? Where did I go wrong? Like where did somebody not give me the full picture? What I was going to say is, see, because we focus so much on big heady God theology, and we tend not to focus on man and man's need for the gospel in light of Saturday. What do I mean? Well, because I focus so much on Sunday, now this victory, this overcoming, this more than a conqueror mentality is all I got. So when I'm seeing Saturday again, I don't know what to do, because I've been looking at Sunday for so long. Now when I have to live in Saturday, now what? Because now now all I got is hope. I ain't got no answers. I don't know what to do. And hope becomes the thing with which we live. Because Sunday, my faith is sight. Saturday, man, he dead. Like Saturday, you 12 years with an issue of blood. That's living in Saturday. Saturday is your Jairus and your daughter's dead. Saturday is you're the centurion and the servant is already sick. Saturday is You're the Shunammite woman and your son is dead. That's Saturday. You don't know what's about to happen. The only thing you can do is hope, believe, trust, aim your faith in one direction, and that's at Jesus and what he said to be true. Mm-hmm. But like Paul says, if that ain't true, if he does not get up,
I'm the most
it's all a sham. And so again, the point of Saturday that we miss, I think, that I've missed for years, is that it's there that I have to wrestle. Is he God or is he not? Man, Sunday come, I know the answer. Mm-hmm. Like Sunday, I ain't got to think. No, he's standing there. Like, he came through the doors. He's showing me the nail prints. I can see the piercing in the side, right? Like right now is Saturday for me. If this ain't true, sweet, I'm wasting my life. Like I'm trying to train my kids. I had conversations today about worshiping Jesus instead of bunnies on Easter. Like I had those kind of conversations that I look nuts come Christmas, Halloween, St. Patty's Day, St. Valentine's Day, because I'm trying to keep Jesus at the forefront. If all of this is a sham, man, I'm lost. But I tell you what, Jesus cracked the sky right now. I no longer need hope and I no longer need faith. Love only remains. Mm-hmm. But Saturday, that's what I'm saying. I live in Saturday. Come June 1st, if Judah is healed back to normal completely, which is what I believe will happen based upon what God said, I don't know if that's true or the Lord will heal him by taking him home, whatever. If one of those things happens by June 1st, hey, I know what to do then. Let me tell you something. One of them things don't happen, your boy's already in Saturday, but I'm even more in Saturday. Like then I'm like, okay, so now what? Now did I hear you wrong? Did I miss something? Am I off? Are you real? Is this true? And people are afraid to go there when you're a believer. They act like, yeah, you can't go there. It's like,
but that here's the thing. If you don't go there, you walk away.
Agreed.
It's like when you don't feel the freedom to be like, I put my entire hope and trust on this thing, and it didn't play out like I thought it would. I gave my life to the Lord, and then my life ended up looking like this. I didn't expect it. Right. Yeah. I trusted God to do a miracle in my life, or to protect this person, or to keep this person, or to not let this person die, or all of the things that we ask God. Like we ask God to work in certain ways, to do in certain ways. We assume that we know what that means when he says that he would, or he will, or whatever. Then it doesn't come like we thought it would, or we can't reconcile our hurt or our disappointment or our whatever. We can't reconcile it with what we believe is true about God. So then we're like, I can't do this anymore.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And it's Correct. Like, and if we don't feel the freedom just to say to the Lord in community, you know what I'm saying, authentically with people, like, I'm disappointed, I'm upset, like, I hope that this would be the outcome, and it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want this pandemic to affect my family this closely. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to have to be another person that was, you know what I'm saying, like affected in this particular way by what was going on. I wanted to stay unharmed from it. I wanted to, you know, like, and so when all of that happens and we don't we don't do the wrestling, like to your point, and have that mentality, like, I am not letting go until, like, you bless me mentality.
Absolutely.
You know, like, oh boy, wrestling, you know, so like with God in the Old Testament. Yeah. It's like, then we just say, all right, I'm tapping out. You know what I mean? So you're going to hold on until you see the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that the blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. This idea that like God, I want to see you. And when I say see you, doesn't necessarily mean see an outcome play out the way that I want it to, but I want to know you. Like, know you for who you are, not what people have told me that you are, not what church paints this picture of who you are. Like, I really want to know who you are and what your heart is, and to the degree that I can comprehend it in this little fetal mind of mine. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so yeah, I agree. If you don't feel the freedom to do that, which most Christian circles don't give people permission and space to be that vulnerable, right, and that transparent, then you just say, all right, I'm good on all of this. You get what I mean? Like, I would, because then you
one extreme or the other,
and you feel like that.
I'm good, or you fake it all.
Exactly. And I think sometimes the narratives that we have heard, it's kind of like a hope deferred makes the heart sick, you know? Okay. And so it's like, I had all of this hope in this thing, and then it didn't happen. So now there's like you feel sick about it. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, it's like, God says, hey, in that space, come to me. You get what I mean? Like, draw near to me, I will draw near to you. You get what I'm saying? Like, in your uncertainty, in your questioning, in your doubt, in your disappointment, all of that, come to me, because there is something that we're not seeing clearly, right? About the Lord in those moments, and He wants to show us. You get what I'm saying? So that we will have hope for Sunday. You get what I'm saying? Whatever Sunday is in the moment. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and Sunday is ultimately knowing Him.
Oh, yeah.
And we've always answered it with heady theology, which is the annoying part. Because even as I hear you say, I put my hope in this thing, so I can hear somebody going, well, you shouldn't have hoped in that thing anyway. You should have hoped in the Lord. I was hoping in the Lord, who said He was going to do this thing. Nay, He did. Mm-hmm. Now what? Mm-hmm. So, like, I can answer with all the heady theology I want. He did. I can't talk to Him. I can't see Him. Like, I walk with Him every day for 3 years. Now He's dead. Now what do I do? Mm-hmm. Hey, come Sunday, I know exactly what to do. Saturday, I'm wrestling. I'm going, there is a conversation that I long to have with Him that it seems like I can't have. And in their case, they couldn't have because He was dead. Right. But in our case, we have with the Lord, like, yo, this is what I thought you said. Did I miss you? Did I miss something? And we still have to wait and see. We still have to hope. We still have to have confident expectation. No, He's going to complete His word. He is going to be the promise keeper. Sure. But we really shoot ourselves in the foot by singing songs that say things like, you're never going to let me down. I listen to what I say in worship, and I would say, that ain't true. Now, I know, don't get me wrong, I think I'm theologically and biblically sound enough to say, those who hope in Him will never be disappointed. I don't think that text means that they won't ever experience disappointment in the moment. I think what the text means is they will not be ashamed of their decision and their choice, because in the end, it will come to fruition. But in the moment, man, you better believe cats are disappointed. And to me, for Christians to not be able to say, yeah, I was disappointed, it doesn't mean that God failed. And I think what people think is if you say you're disappointed by God, that you're saying He failed. No, He didn't fail. My spirit is willing, but my flesh is weak. He didn't fail, but I don't see what I expected to see based upon what He said. And I'm wrestling with that. I'm confused by that. And my confusion is okay. That mystery is okay. I don't just need to try to slap sovereignty on it. With Corona and COVID-19, I don't just need to slap sovereignty on it. I don't need to go to the other extreme and blow the wind of God at it. Just saying, I don't need to do that. What I need to do is, same thing I said when Kobe died. Before I try to wrestle with answers and do the whole sovereignty thing, let me just be broken over the fact that I live in a broken, fallen world. Let me wrestle. Let me live in that gospel of Saturday that a life has been lost and a soul is now judged by God for all of eternity. Mm-hmm. If I don't do that, if I just keep slapping sovereignty on it, then what I'm trying to do on Saturday is disregard all my feelings of Friday. And just as you've heard me say in Thriving in Troubled Times, once you disregard those feelings of Friday, even when your faith is made sight on Sunday, you still haven't wrestled with the disappointment. So before you know it, once you're moving along in the faith and something looks different than what you thought it would look like, you're going to start tripping again. And we see that in Peter. And people will say, are you talking about when he interacted with Jesus? No, I'm talking about the book of Galatians. When he goes and he hangs out with the Gentiles and it seems to be doing what they're doing, but then the Jews come around and they start acting funny. In part, when you think about his Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, he denied the Lord. We have no clue what Saturday looked like. We just know he wept bitterly. But even when he's told Jesus is at the tomb, he runs. But then what does he do? He goes back fishing. I just wonder, man, did you ever deal with the disappointment of Friday? Mm-hmm. Not just your disappointment in the fact that you watched Jesus die, but your disappointment in you for doing what you did, your disappointment in Judas for betraying. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm like, I don't think cats really understand their position. Yo, it's Saturday. You walked with him for 3 years. Your homeboy betrayed him. You don't know where he is now. Turns out he's hanged himself and he's dead. But like, Jesus just turned over his own mother to John. Like, guys, like he did.
Yeah.
What did we hear? Is this true? It had to be. Man, I saw it. With our own eyes, we saw him. We know that it's true. But it just don't. This just doesn't seem right. And I think that's where the gospel of Saturday is called the gospel of Saturday. The good news. The good news is I don't have to have the answer on Saturday because I'm hoping in the answer coming Sunday. He said 3 days. I have to wait and see. He said he would return. I have to wait and see. And until then, how will I be found? Well, watching and praying. And even in the midst of that wrestling, I can find that the Lord will meet me in that wrestling and say, all of these things that you're experiencing are the very same things that Jesus experienced, and I'm conforming you into that image. Immediately, I can hear the rebuttal from the people, Jesus was never disappointed. I understand what you're saying. But I think when Jesus says, hey, you would have no authority over me unless it was given to you. So the one who has turned me over to you has the greater sin. I think when he says, and you're clean, but not all of you, when he says, hey, I've lost none of these except for the son of perdition, but that was what you planned. I'm not saying he was disappointed, but I certainly think that there's an element of his humanity that did not necessarily like that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I think that same way when he was in the garden, when Peter cuts off Malchus and says, hey, put that up, man. I could pray to Father and he could send down 12 legions of angels. That statement lets me know he still had a choice. Now, we know what he would have chosen. We know that he did choose. We know what he did. But I'm like, man, he said, I could stop this. But then how would the scriptures be fulfilled? I love that Matthew says he asked, John says it too, he asked for that drink on the cross to fulfill the scriptures. Like everything he did was just to be obedient to his Father. And so seeing all of that and then looking around life and recognizing, even the two guys on the Emmaus Road, they're sitting there talking, contemplating. You can tell they're wrestling. Yo, man, this is what we had hoped in him. Like, are you new to the streets of Israel? Like, what's going on? We had hoped in him, man, that he did. Mm-hmm. And I can see people in the pandemic going, hey, but how does Psalm 91 fit? How does, all of these, it's the same way I wrestled in 2017. How does all of this work? And I think our tendency is to go to the prophetic. We sinned against God and then he's judging us. And it's like, well, that might be true. I'm not saying that's not true.
Sure, right.
But I think what he also may be doing is allowing us to have his heart in a way that we perhaps have never had his heart. Perhaps what he's doing over this Resurrection Sunday, when nobody will be in the doors of a local assembly building church, but all have to be in their homes, really recounting, celebrating, coronating the story of Easter. I think he's saying, no, I want y'all to have my heart. Because some of us are disappointed that we're not seeing family this Easter in the way that we normally would. We're disappointed that we won't have Easter dinner like we normally do. We are broken and heartsick over the fact that we're watching so much happen worldwide. But we have nothing but time to contemplate that while we're stuck at the house. Me and my boy Chris Johnson were talking about something the other day, in Saturday, when they're all alone, all together in the same room, and this even happens to them again on Sunday, and this even happens to them right before Pentecost. At some level, they're not quarantined because of sickness, but they're quarantined because of sickness. It's not a physical sickness that's happening out there, not a plague happening out there, but they are sick from seeing, and I'm not saying this has to be the case, I'm just saying Peter hid, the disciples ran away, and then they're all together and Jesus is dead. And they're trying to figure out what in the world happened. What is going on? Mm-hmm. I was amazed. We were watching the Gospel of John yesterday and just reading through John a little bit. They ran to the tomb. They didn't see his body. And the Bible says that Peter and John, they went back to their houses. It's like, fellas, you're not going to look around? You're not going, like what? I think it clicked Because the Bible says of John that he looked in there, he saw that he was gone, and the Bible says, and he believed.
Mm-hmm.
What that tells me is that he either hadn't believed yet or he was wrestling. And that made him go, oh no. Yeah, he got up. I know it.
Yeah,
I still ain't seen it.
Yeah.
But I know it.
Yeah.
That's where we are. That's where I am. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen Jesus come back. I haven't seen Judas healing. I haven't seen the end of the pandemic. But I believe with all my heart, God is speaking a word and will continue to speak a word of his preeminence returning in a way that we haven't seen it before. In a way that will make us go, behold the Lamb of God who has come to take away the sin of the world this resurrection day in a way that we haven't before. I cannot remember a time, KB, of somebody other than myself or the dude that I heard Stilo talking about. The fact is, I cannot think of a time somebody ever even talked about Saturday today. And to know that when I was writing that Gospel of Saturday joint for Facebook, show was posting that video on Instagram, makes me go, I believe the Lord really wants attention to be here on this Gospel of Saturday, on this, who are you trusting? What are you trusting in? Where is your hope? Because man, that is the question. In the midst of pandemic, where's your hope? What do you believe? Who are you trusting in? Because that really is the question. Absolutely. That way, when Corona's done, you don't return to life as it was. You don't go back to life.
You can't. Well, I guess you could, but you are less likely to. I feel like if you do this part.
I was going to say it's only as likely as you invest in Saturday. Mm-hmm. But if you just are, if you're the disciple, if you are the local person just going, we just need to get through it. We just need to get through it. Sunday will come. We just need to get through it. It's like, well, you can get through it all you want to, but when he rises, now if Peter hasn't really dealt with his stuff in Saturday, now when Jesus on Sunday or Monday or whatever day it was that Jesus confronts him and says, Peter, do you love me? Man, now he toe up from the flow up. Because now it's like, you didn't wrestle with the way that you denied me, but I'm about to give you another opportunity to confess your love for me, and then I'm gonna let you live it. And I think that's why we see Peter's vigor in the book of Acts. And there were people who argue and say, no, it's because of the Holy Spirit. I agree with that. But it's interesting that we don't see John and James just biblically the same way that we see Peter. We see Peter preaching in chapter 2. We see Peter healing people in chapter 3. I mean, we see Peter going to prison and getting out. Like, Peter has a total transformation. But I think the reason Peter has a total transformation at some level is because he's on fire at that time. But again, the further and further we get away from Saturday, the easier it might be for us to find ourselves chilling with the Gentiles and then acting funny when the Jews come. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the way it is. I think coronavirus is a lot like when a police officer pulls you over. When you get pulled over, I don't know about anybody else, but when I get pulled over, them first 8-10 miles, I'm looking for police officers. I'm looking at my speedometer. I'm making sure I'm not speeding. You know what I mean? I'm like being cautious. And it may last a week. Sometimes it lasts 2 weeks where I'm setting the cruise, trying to make sure I'm not speeding. Further and further I get away from that experience. Before I know it, I got the music blasting and I'm just driving, having a good old time on the road. Because I'm further and further away from the Saturday where I have to deal with the disappointment, the confusion, the recognition that what I had thought would be the case is no longer the case. That happens with people who were about to graduate.
Listen,
yeah.
That is why to me, this weekend, for the first time in my walking with the Lord since, I guess for real, since 2003, right? I am looking at Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as the cycle of life, like every day. You know what I mean? Like this weekend, we celebrated as a body, as the Big C Church, you know what I'm saying? Like in our local churches, and it all looks different right now, but as a country, to some degree, I mean, the leader of the free world was even trying to acknowledge, like, hey, Easter's an important day. It'd be nice if all this was over by then, So it's a recognized time. But for me, I'm exhorter, my spiritual gift is expectation. I'm thinking about my strategic mindset and in my desire to help people practically understand more complicated things and making them simple. I'm like, this weekend is the model to which your whole life cycles. You get what I'm saying? Like, as you walk with Jesus. And so as I'm just any given day going about my life and finding things in me rising up that I'm like, wait, I thought this was over. I thought this was gone. Why is this surfacing? Why are these thoughts surfacing? Why am I being triggered in this way? You know what I mean? Like, why do I feel the way that I feel? Okay. So then I'm like, dang, I've been walking with the Lord, right? Like, I love God. Like, you just saying, like, am I a Christian? Like, now I'm starting to question, like, people go to that assurance thing. Like, well, I'm not sure if I'm a Christian, if I feel like, these things have kind of come to the surface, you know what I'm saying? But what does that mean for the gospel? And is what Jesus said is true, but then I have to remind myself, like, oh yeah, this is what he said was going to happen. I don't feel it right now. I don't see it right now in this moment. But I kind of do, because I'm acknowledging that I am feeling this way. Whereas before I would have just felt it and gone on, but now there's a tension, you get what I mean? And I can identify the tension. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm hoping in a few things. One, that the Holy Spirit, if his job is to convict the world of sin, righteousness, and judgment, that the Holy Spirit will continue to do a work in me in this process of sanctification.
Absolutely.
Two, that my position with Jesus doesn't change. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
because I'm feeling some kind of way today. Like, what he said is true is still true today, even though it doesn't feel like it. However, I will see the fullness, you know what I'm saying, like, of all that I believe, either sometime down the line, if I keep pursuing the Lord, or in glory, ultimately. You know what I'm saying? When I get a whole new body and all of this foolish flesh stuff can be gone. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and so to me, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is a blueprint, a map, you know what I mean? Like, of the goodness of God and Jesus, and the hope that we have in him, and the hope that I have in the big hope that we have in, like, oh, he resurrected and so now we're all saved, is also the big hope that we have that, like, oh, I'm a Christian and he's continuing to sanctify me and he will complete the work he started in me. You know what I mean? Like, and continue to grow me up into the fullness of who he's called me to be, and the mature man that he wants wants the body to reflect, and all of these things. You know what I'm saying? Like, so to
Absolutely.
me, it's Easter weekend, it's the resurrection, Sunday, and all this, like it has been before, but in a new way, because of this whole Gospel of Saturday piece. Just since last summer, just like, man, like, it just completely changes my Easter experience, like, this weekend. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And
So
it changes your day to day.
absolutely, absolutely. Which to me, I'm like, if what you believe doesn't change your day to day, then what are we doing? You get what I mean? Like,
Agreed.
if all of this is just for Easter, if it's just for this weekend, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm good. Like, if it's just for the holidays, if it's just for the big moments, if it's just for, I'm like, for me personally, especially in light of my story, like, oh, I need this thing to be true day in, day out. I need this to, like, is what you're telling me going to sustain me, like, tomorrow? You know what I mean? Like, this moment was great. This whole, like, experience we just had, amazing. Not to downplay those experiences, but people encounter God in these ginormous emotional, like that is necessary and great. I just want to know that when I leave here today, that tomorrow I'm not going to feel like, oh, this didn't work. You get what I'm saying? Like, I need what you're
Absolutely.
telling me right now to be true today and tomorrow and the day after, and then the day that I don't really believe that it was true, but it's still true. Like, I need to be able, like, I need an anchor. Like, I don't need hype and fluff. And I also don't need your books and your quotes and your old guys. Like, I don't need
Right.
that either. Like, I need truth that's going to, like, keep me, you know what I'm saying? Like, day in and day out. And so, yeah, man, yeah, I wanted to have this conversation. I wanted to, this conversation to be on record, so to speak, and be able to share it with whoever was willing to sit and just listen to the dialogue, because I think that it changes everything, like, when you
Absolutely.
think about today. So I'm gonna share this and post this. It's longer form, so I'll probably put it on YouTube. And I'm like, Lord, please, Holy Spirit, like, give me a way to talk about the importance of a day like today in light of the what people consider the holiday, but then also to, like, be able to connect it to how people do relationship, because relationships don't last if you don't understand Saturday. You get what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to turn to
What?
anyway. That concept. I think that what you said that is critical is without the wrestling of Saturday, people either walk away or, like I said, the other extreme is they just fake it all.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, that's
relationship
good.
and friendship work that same way when we think about heart combos.
Absolutely.
People who don't wrestle with the disappointment of their friendship, they don't wrestle with that time that you didn't show up when I really needed you to show up, that time that I was expecting you to do for me what you did not do for me. Now I'm wrestling. What are we really friends? Like, you didn't invite me to this thing that you invited everybody else
Mm-hmm.
to. I thought we were level 5 in a circle. Turns out I'm
Mm-hmm.
not quite sure where we fit. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not quite sure what I mean to you. I'm not quite sure if I mean what I thought I
Mm-hmm.
meant to you. Is this how it's supposed to look? You also invited that person that I'm not even necessarily cool with. How did that
Mm-hmm.
even happen
That's
without
right.
me? I didn't even know about it.
Baby.
Or like, hey, you said it on a day where you already knew I couldn't do it when I already told you set it on this day so I can be there because you're being boxy. That's Saturday.
And it's true that this is what's crazy. Whether you ascribe to Christianity or not, believe that Jesus is who he is or not, if you hear, even hearing the story of Jesus dying, like people go, okay, Jesus died on a cross. But so in connecting it to the relationship thing, bad things in relationships happen. We get that. We got it. Cool. The other side of it is like, oh, he resurrected from the grave. You know what I mean? Like, so a miracle is going to happen. Like, things are going to be restored. Everything is going to be good at some point. You know what I mean? That by is it binary, right? Is that binary view of things, like things are either bad or they're good. You get what I'm saying? Or they were bad for a little bit, but they're gonna be good eventually. Like, that is how people view relationships. This is how relationships are done. And the same thing with Christianity. Like, things are bad now, but they'll eventually be good. And so you just need to hope that they'll be good. You get what I
Yep.
mean? But how you get from here to here and all that happens in between, that is the premise of Heart Convos.
Correct.
Like,
And you can't get there just resigning to go, I'm just going to wait till it gets better. And until then, I'm just going to either A, fake it till I make it,
mm-hmm.
or B, just going to resign from the relationship until that person decides that I mean something to them.
Mm-hmm.
Or until I decide that they're going to mean something to me.
Mm-hmm.
No, you have to dive into that uncertainty, confusion, doubt, disappointment, disbelief, and wrestling.
Absolutely.
In order for, that's what I'm saying, it's so significant. In order for Sunday to mean what it should mean to you,
Absolutely.
you have to dive into that. Otherwise, he rose. And you're just like Thomas. People around you saw him. They saw him. Thomas, we saw him. I won't believe until this happens. It's like, okay, so word. But then Thomas sees him, right? Faith becomes sight. Thomas sees him. Put your hands here. Thomas does that. What does Jesus say? You believe because you have seen. Blessed are those who believe and haven't seen.
Mm.
That to me is why Saturday is huge. Blessed are those who believe and haven't seen. Man, if your faith is real in Saturday, you know you're going to be straight Sunday when you actually see him. If my faith is real now, I know that when I stand in front of Jesus and my faith is made sight, I'm fine then. But right now is the wrestling.
Mm.
Right now is the disappointment. Hey, when you wrestle with what you want that friendship to look like,
Mm-hmm.
when you wrestle with how you want, hey, you know what to do when it's restored.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not the hard part anymore. You now know. We've been through the rough patch.
Mm-hmm.
As you've heard me say, the faith that hasn't been tested can't be trusted. Neither can the friendship. The friendship that hasn't been tested shouldn't be, is what I'm gonna say, trusted. And when I say trusted, I mean, if you're continuing to invest in this friendship, but you haven't hit that rough patch yet, that you know you got a ride or die,
Mm-hmm.
be careful. Bless you, because you might think that that relationship is a lot further along than it actually is, but it's going to take a Saturday. It's going to take something really, really bad, grotesque, and gruesome happen that they might even say it would happen. But that's not what you were looking for in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's happened. Now what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Now you've been let down. Now that person has betrayed your trust. Now that person has spoken about something out loud that you thought would be spoken of in confidence.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with that? And what we do is go, nope, Jesus was toxic. That's why he's died on Friday. I'm not even going to think about it anymore. It's like, or you can continue to wait and be confident that Sunday is coming, but it will take you wrestling. Otherwise, when you hear the announcement that the grave is open and he's not there, you're not going to run to the grave. When you hear the announcement that he's risen, when he comes into the room where you are, you're still going to be wondering if it's really him.
Oh, and so many people stay in that space. They will not choose to trust again. They will not choose to walk in vulnerability, even after they're because they've been hurt. They're still stuck on the other side of it. Again, those two extremes,
Right.
And I think the question is, well, so if Sunday is coming, and the hope on Saturday is that Sunday is coming, and even though I'm wrestling with how I'm feeling, I'm going to believe that Sunday is coming. What does Sunday is coming mean in friendship?
Great question. It means that there is and I would say this is what it means in Christianity. I
Mm,
would say there's the opportunity for a reconciled relationship of love and joy and peace.
mm,
Why do I say that? Well, just because he rose don't mean you saved, and it don't mean everybody else is.
mm,
His resurrection allows him to present himself to God the Father to be the sacrifice for us. But unless there's some faith toward that, unless there's some faith transaction, at the end of the day, that is not significant to the individual not believing.
right.
Friendship works the same way. The resurrection, the Sunday of it is there is an opportunity for reconciliation to happen because I've wrestled in Saturday with my disbelief and disappointment, my doubt. And now I'm wanting, I'm willing, I'm hoping, I'm ready for reconciliation. I
Mm,
just need to see it come to pass.
mm,
But in order for it to come to pass, I've got to also make a jump
mm,
and be ready for that jump to be met with reconciliation, met with sacrifice that is willing to meet me with love and joy and
mm,
peace.
mm.
The thing is, in friendships, you don't have that guarantee
Oh,
as
right.
you have it in Christianity. However, I would say I think we put a lot of onus on other people being our friends when, as I've said to my children many times, you can be that person's friend. Again, it's not that
Mm,
we are Jesus's friends as much as he is ours, and therefore he calls us friend.
mhm,
And you can always show love and joy and peace and show a level of reconciliation to somebody, but you may need to recode them, refile them. Oh, okay, thought you were level 5. We had our Friday moment. I wrestled in Saturday. I came to you hoping for reconciliation on Sunday, and it
mhm,
seems like you still don't want to reconcile. I now need to place you back in level 2, level 3, and
mhm,
that's okay.
mhm,
That's a part of the good news. That's a part of the house of mourning. That's a part of the day of one's death, more blessed or being better than the day of one's birth. Now
mhm.
I don't have to deal with the disappointment of this relationship in the same way that I did before because I can adjust my expectations.
Right.
Whereas if I'm in the house of feasting, that's before Friday. That's before he died. That's before I have to wrestle. That's before the resurrection.
Mhm,
But in the house of mourning, you come face to face with your frailty. You come face to face with the ability to be completely broken, separated, die. What happens then? That is the major question in friendship as well.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. What happens when we don't get along? What happens when this ain't all like roses and mop and glow? What happens when you know what I'm saying? Like when it's not all feely, like feel good. What
What
happens when
happens
we
when
when we
what
just
brought us together dissipates?
say, huh?
What happens when what brought us together dissipates?
Oh, absolutely. What happens when we don't agree on, what I'm saying, like certain things in life or faith or boundaries or whatever, like what happens when there's just whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like what happens then? And yeah, again, reconciliation is the goal, and that is only attained through conversations. And so again, the entire premise of Heart Convos, but this was good. This was so good. And again, I'm so thankful that you were willing to chop it up with me live and put it all out there. I mean, this is our everyday conversation, but just like people get to hear this, you know what I'm saying? And like
Yeah.
and hear kind of what goes on in our dialogue and in the thought process about how what we believe in our faith really uh comes through, you know what I'm saying, in the way that we live our lives, in the way that we function in this world. So thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
You're welcome, man. Can I give you one more before I get off?
Yeah.
The ultimate heart combo, in my opinion, is two, God reconciling with man. That's the ultimate heart combo, because man has to confess his sin and his brokenness. God has to confess his love for mankind that was willing to send his son. The second one, that is like a human to human, even though Jesus is 100% God, beautiful heart combo, John 20 and 21, Jesus with Peter. Peter has denied him. Jesus knows that. They have a one-on-one conversation. Peter, do you love me? Even Jesus had to have heart combos. He had to have one with Peter. And you can tell by the way that Peter responds. Because, for us, the equivalent would be, hey, Peter, do you love me? And Peter responds, we boys. It's like, hold up. I just said I love you. You said we boys.
Yeah.
And does Jesus balk at what he says? No. Jesus says, again, modern translation of this, well, then take care of the people that I care about. Peter, do you love me? Man, I just said, man, you my dude. Okay, then I need you to feed those that I care about that are young. And then the third time, Peter, do you love me? Man, why do you keep asking me that? It's like, well, Peter, you know why I'm asking you, because the last time somebody asked you something 3 times, you said you didn't even know who I was. Jesus doesn't say that. Peter responds and Jesus says the same thing again. So he reconciles the relationship, but he actually doesn't ever technically bring up his denial 3 times. What he does instead, which I think is really cool, is he allows him to confess his love 3 times. He gives him an opportunity 3 times to confess his love in the same way that he denied 3 times. And that's why sometimes the heart combo doesn't have to be all gloom and doom, and you got to bring up every single thing that hurt and all of the past and how you, although sometimes that's necessary, don't get me wrong.
Oh, that's his conversation with Judas when he was like, do you betray the Son of Man? You talk about the elephant in the room? Baby.
Oh, yeah.
He just turned him over. He was like, Judas, you betrayed the Son of Man with a kiss? He's like, let me just call this out right now, because this is what's happening.
Absolutely.
You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And he called him friend. Hey, friend, why'd you come? Man, you got to think that this cat is like, I don't know that I should do this. But he still is like the one who I kissed. And then he kisses. It's like, yeah, man.
Heart Convos with Jesus is a whole series.
Agreed. The woman caught in adultery.
He's like, I'm sorry, you actually have 6. And the one you with right now, Gary Patton, you just say ain't actually your dude, but
absolutely.
Here we are.
Yo, legit though. That's like a dope series of Heart Combos with Jesus and how he responds. Because with the woman caught in adultery, he doesn't really say a lot to her, even though because she knows she in the wrong. And sometimes when you talk to a friend and you know they in the wrong, they know they in the wrong.
My.
You ain't gotta dredge it all up.
Come on.
But when they don't know, then you gotta let them have it sometimes. But for Peter, he lovingly restores Peter in a way that he communicates his love for Peter more than Peter, his love for him. And I think that's what, at least for me, sometimes in friendships I have missed. I have wanted someone to be a friend to me instead of going, no, the point of Saturday is me to wrestle, to aim my faith at Jesus. He ain't got nothing to prove. At the end of the day, I mean, he understand what I'm saying? Like he does, because he said he was going to rise, but he ain't got to prove that. It's about whether or not I'm going to believe it. So even if he rises, if I don't believe it, that's the point.
Yeah.
Like if I don't believe this, sure, it matters in the grand scheme of things, but like it doesn't matter to me if I don't believe it. And it does still matter because I'm missing what's best. But what I mean is the critical part of it, the pivotal part of it is, am I going to believe this? Because that means I'm going to aim my friendship at him because he's already aimed it at me. That's my assumption. So in Heart Combos, when somebody hurts me in a friendship, I need to aim, when I wrestle with that, I aim my friendship at them. If they receive it, awesome. If they don't receive it, again, I get to recategorize or refile where they go. So
There's
we
so
got
much.
a new series out of that. We just need to, I'm reading through Matthew right now. So we need to do that. Heart
No,
combos with the heart
no,
combo with, yeah, that's awesome.
like Jesus's heart combos for real. I mean, because I've done it with different influencers, and I mean, why not? Why not do Jesus's heart combos and just different times where he just you just see him modeling heart combos in real time with the people he did life with. But I think that was good what you just said about the aiming. You aiming your friendship at people. You get what I'm saying? Like showing yourself to be friendly. You get what
Yep.
I'm saying? Like instead of expecting the person to get it together and then aim friendship back at you. Continue to I think that's good. I need to flesh that thought out because I'm like that's the goal, to continue to aim friendship at someone until they ultimately just either reject it or, you get what I'm saying, like make it very clear, like this is what I want and don't want, you know what I mean, to
Absolutely.
which you can. But that's not what people do. People aim their friendship at people, experience disappointment or hurt or whatever, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to withhold friendship. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I'm not going to care anymore. I'm not going to show myself friendly anymore. I'm not going to do, because they don't deserve it, right? They haven't proven themselves worthy of it or whatever.
Right.
And then once they do that, then I'll aim my friendship back at them. And
Correct.
it's like, why not just show yourself to be friendly? Like, and I'm trying to think what the thought is. The thought is, if I keep showing myself to be friendly to someone who doesn't deserve it or doesn't treat me well or whatever, they could, I guess I could be taken advantage of, right?
Daggone right.
Uh, to
They
which,
can trample my heart over.
absolutely. So the goal is not just to do it carelessly, but to do it with intention, right? And put people in I guess recategorize where those people stand with you, so that way when you are extending your friendship to them, you're still doing it, but you're doing it at a level that is appropriate for where you have put them.
That is correct.
In
A
the
level that's
tier.
appropriate for you, listen, and a level that's appropriate for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, some relationships you start running, but no, y'all ain't even learned to walk yet.
Yeah.
You ain't even learned to stand and look at each other yet.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't even learned how to be in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
And you trying to hold hands and run. That ain't gonna work.
Sure. No, that's good. Even the level that is appropriate for them, because the way that I do friendship, I'm on a walk, don't run. I have to tell myself walk, don't run, because I run, and that's mainly because of how I was trained up in this culture of vulnerability. I was dropped into a space where they're like, hey, you all should just go run into vulnerability, into vulnerability with one another. But when I've tried to do that with different people, and some people it clicks, and then they become like some of my like closest friends. And then for other people, it's too much. You know what I mean? Like, this is too much. This is not healthy. And then it becomes unhealthy. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't necessarily good for them. Ultimately, probably not good for me either, because it's not good for them. So then it doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, that's a great thought too. Like, is this good for? Then that goes into like preferring the person above you. Like, there's a way that I would like to be able to engage with you, but you can't quite meet me there or match that. So I need to adjust my expectations so that I don't put you in an uncomfortable place and I don't set myself up for disappointment, which I was just talking about my women's group the other day, even in the context of like marriage, like both spouses being willing to adjust to what the other person is able to give. Like, I want you to give this much. I feel like you can only give this much. So I bring down my expectations and you push yourself a little more. Maybe we can meet in the middle, and it should be that way in all of our relationships. But yeah, again, all of this that we speak is foolishness to the culture. People were like, y'all are on some other stuff.
They probably were until they stuck at home with people. I bet now cats are like, yo, every time I walk in the kitchen, there's an elephant sitting on the island. There's an elephant on the counter. There's an elephant in the cupboard. There's an elephant in the bedroom. There's an elephant everywhere I go.
Right.
And so they need the tools to be able to have conversations without yelling at each other, without arguing, without accusing, without withdrawing, without stonewalling. And I think Heart Convos helps people do that. It's like, you can have a mature conversation if you're willing to be self-reflective and just say, hey, I need to hear what you got to say. And I may not like it, but let's go ahead and hit this crucifixion of conversation, if you will. Let's go ahead and
Mm-hmm.
deal in the gloominess of Saturday. And let's go ahead and push toward the belief for resurrection. That is the opportunity for reconciliation in a relationship. Let's continue to push toward Pentecost, where the spirit of our relationship can come and we can speak to each other in common language, even if we don't understand each other.
It's a whole book, man. It's a whole book. You're tripping.
Nah, that's fun. That is fun. I
You're
hadn't thought about that till I
tripping. Listen, that's what I'm saying. Go ahead. You know, you got the mind for it. Go ahead and write that out.
How about we keep doing these, and then as the Holy Spirit brings it, you get it.
Hey, I agree. This is good. All right, brother. I love you so much.
Right.
Thank you. Tell Kendra and the kids I said, hey.
Yes,
Peace.
ma'am.
Mm-hmm.